Have you ever felt that flicker? That quiet burn in your chest when your eyes meet someone else's for just a second too long? The heat, the curiosity, the ache, and then the shame. As if being alive is something to apologize for. As if desire were something you should hide. We live in a world that commodifies lust and then punishes you for feeling it. A world where algorithms feed you bodies but shame you for your hunger. Where everything is sexualized but nothing is sacred. Isn't that strange? We drape skin across billboards. We saturate songs with moans. We sell perfume with the promise of sex. And yet, when lust awakens in you, raw and real, you're taught to flinch, to suppress, to pretend. Don't be dirty. Don't stare. Don't want. But what if the problem isn't lust? What if the problem is how we've misunderstood it? Desire is not evil. It's a signal. And yes, it can be dangerous. But not because it's wrong, because it's powerful. It's the fire that built civilizations, wrote poetry, started wars, and gave us birth. And it's also the fire we're told to ignore, to put out, to extinguish. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So what happens when you keep lust in the dark? It grows teeth. It festers. It starts controlling you from behind the curtain. It whispers in the late hours. It steals your focus. It becomes addiction, obsession, compulsion. And here's the truth. You cannot fight what you won't name. You cannot heal what you're ashamed to feel. That's why this message matters. Because you've been lied to. Conditioned to believe that if you feel desire, you must also feel guilt. That if you want, you must apologize. That the fire inside you should be buried. But let me ask you, what if you didn't bury it? What if you studied it, listened to it, learned its language? This fire, the one you pretend not to feel, is the map to something deeper, something ancient, something true. And when you reject it, you don't become holy. You become hollow. We are not here to escape our bodies. We are here to understand them. Think of all the moments you censored yourself. That flirt you buried. That pulse you ignored. That connection you shut down because you were afraid of being one of those people. What did it cost you? How many relationships died in silence because no one dared to speak the truth of what they felt? How much shame did you swallow, thinking you were broken for being human? And here's the irony. The more you suppress lust, the more it controls you. So this isn't about indulgence. This isn't about becoming a slave to your urges. This is about integration. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, "Yes, I feel this, and I will not be afraid of it," because fear turns desire into dysfunction. But awareness transforms it into power. So let's stop pretending. Let's stop acting like we don't see the fire. Because the moment you admit it's there, the moment you look it in the eye instead of the floor, that's the moment it stops burning you and starts lighting the way. Have you ever asked yourself why you feel what you feel? Why a glance from someone can electrify you? Why a thought, fleeting and uninvited, can set your chest on fire? Desire. Not just lust. Not just wanting. But that deep, magnetic pull towards something, or someone, that seems to promise a forgotten piece of yourself. And yet, how often are we told? Control it. Bury it. Shame it. As if desire were an enemy. As if feeling deeply were dangerous. It's not. Desire is not a sin. It's a signal. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Desire is the unconscious knocking, begging to be heard, begging to be seen. But instead of listening, you repress. You label your wants as shameful. You call your instincts primitive. And you wonder why you wake up empty, why your relationships feel hollow, why your body tenses up at the very thing it secretly yearns for. Here's the truth. The war isn't against desire. The war is against your refusal to understand it. Desire is not here to destroy you. It's here to show you where you're already broken. It shows you the parts of yourself you've locked away. It shows you the unmet needs, the abandoned dreams, the emotional starvation that your curated, perfect life refuses to acknowledge. You desire because you are alive. You desire because something in you remembers freedom. Think about it. When you were a child, you desired without shame. You ran toward joy without asking permission. You reached for connection without overthinking. But as you grew, you were told, "That's too much. Be proper. Be quiet." So you shut it down. And now, you chase substitutes, temporary highs, distractions, addictions, endless scrolling, casual validation. You're starving, and the world keeps feeding you fast food affection. But real desire, the kind that lingers, it doesn't scream. It whispers. It asks you to listen, to stop numbing, to start remembering. Nietzsche wrote, "There is always some madness in love, but there is also always some reason in madness." Desire is madness. And reason, it reveals what you really need, not just sexually, but spiritually. That's what makes it terrifying, because to follow it honestly, it would mean burning the scripts. It would mean telling the truth. It would mean walking away from who you pretended to be. But you can't evolve by pretending. You evolve by confronting. So I'll ask you, what are you afraid to want? Who are you afraid to touch? What fire are you pretending not to see? You don't have to act on every desire, but you do have to understand it. Otherwise, it owns you. It leaks out in self-sabotage, in resentment, in bitter compromise. Freud believed that repression creates neurosis, that bearing desire doesn't kill it, it mutates. That's what most people are today. Not calm, not in control, just emotionally constipated. You want, but you won't name it. You crave, but you pretend it's not there. And you call that maturity? It's not mature to deny yourself. It's mature to understand yourself. The world will sell you a million ways to be numb, but there's only one path to being whole. Radical honesty, about what you want, about what you feel, about what burns inside. You are not here to be a robot. You are not here to live by a manual written by people too afraid to live. You are here to feel, to want, to know yourself. That's the beginning of freedom, not the end of desire. So listen to it, follow it inward. Let it teach you, let it break you, let it remake you. Because buried in desire is not just what you want, it's who you are. And that truth, that raw, electric, inconvenient truth, it will set you free if you're brave enough to look it in the eye. Why are you afraid to want what you want? Who told you desire was dangerous? Where did you learn to be ashamed of your own hunger? You weren't born afraid, you were taught to fear. Society hands out fear like a uniform, and you wear it so long, you forget it's not your skin. From the first time you blushed at a feeling you couldn't explain, the world was there, telling you what was appropriate, what was acceptable, what was pure, what was dirty, and you believed it, not because you were weak, but because you were young, because you trusted the ones who claimed to know better. But what if they didn't? What if the ones who taught you to suppress were only suppressing themselves? What if the shame passed down to you was inherited, not earned? Think about school. Think about how early they begin training you. Sit still. Don't touch. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. And when you begin to question, to explore, to feel more than they can explain, they redirect you. They label you. They say you're rebellious, or confused, or hormonal. They pathologize what is human, especially if you're a woman. Because female desire, that terrifies the world. A woman who knows what she wants cannot be controlled. A woman who craves is a woman who sees through the mask. So they give her another mask to wear. Good girl, quiet wife, obedient daughter, saintly mother. But the fire doesn't die just because they call it inappropriate. It goes underground. It festers. It hides behind smiles and politeness, behind small talk and sacrifice, until one day it explodes. Maybe in the middle of a marriage. Maybe in the silence of a job she never wanted. Maybe in the dark, alone, where no one can see the tears. She doesn't know what's wrong, but something is, because the script is failing. That's what society never tells you. If you follow their rules perfectly, you don't win. You vanish. Your soul erodes. Your instincts rot, all while you're applauded for doing the right thing. Here's the secret. What's considered right often has nothing to do with what's real. They tell you, love is monogamy, desire is sin, pain is weakness, ambition is arrogance. But whose voice is that really? Is it yours? Or is it your grandmother's? Your pastor's? Your teacher's? Whose morality are you performing? And why do you still call it yours? Carl Jung warned of the shadow, the part of you that holds everything you're not allowed to be. Desire lives there, not because it's evil, but because it's unapproved. And anything unapproved becomes dangerous, not in itself, but in how deeply it must hide. The longer you hide your truth, the more distorted it becomes. You think you're in control. You're not. You're controlled by the fear of being judged, by the fear of being rejected, by the terror of being fully seen. And that fear, it doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. You stay in jobs you hate, relationships that numb you, identities that shrink you. Why? Because society said, this is safety. But what kind of safety requires you to be someone you're not? That's not safety. That's self-betrayal. We walk around addicted to approval, desperate for validation, starving for authenticity, because no one taught us how to trust ourselves. Do you see now? You were trained to fear the most human parts of you, and you called that discipline. But true strength? It's not in denial. It's in discernment. It's not in repression. It's in responsibility. You can feel everything and still choose wisely. You can crave and still stay conscious, but you cannot heal what you won't name. So here's your task. Unlearn the fear. Unlearn the shame. Unlearn the lie that says your desires make you dangerous. They make you honest, because what you really want, that's your map. Not just to pleasure, to truth, to wholeness. And yes, it may break the rules. Yes, it may cost you comfort. Yes, it may make you an outsider. But better to be alone in your truth than loved in your lie. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Your desires are your why. Let them speak. Let them teach you. Don't let fear make you deaf. You weren't born to obey. You were born to awaken. Have you ever touched someone and still felt alone? Have you ever craved a body not because you loved it, but because it was available? This is what no one teaches you. Lust is easy. Intimacy is terrifying. Lust gives you a hit. Fast. Temporary. Intense. It quiets the ache for a moment, but it doesn't heal it. We've confused connection with consumption. We've learned to reach for people the same way we reach for phones, pills, distractions. Not to know them, but to forget ourselves. Society rewards lust. You see it everywhere. Billboards, music videos, dating apps. Sex sells. Vulnerability doesn't. And why should it? Lust is clean, predictable, transactional. Intimacy? It's messy. It asks you to be seen, to be honest, to bring your fears into the light and say, "This is me." Will you stay anyway? But we don't stay. We scroll. We ghost. We swipe again. Because staying requires strength we haven't trained. Emotional strength. The kind that holds eye contact when you're scared. The kind that doesn't flinch when someone cries. Do you know how rare that is? Most people would rather undress their bodies than undress their souls. Because soul nakedness? That's the real risk. That's where rejection hurts. Anyone can have sex. Not everyone can have presence. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But we don't want transformation. We want distraction. We want the thrill, not the truth. So we turn intimacy into performance. We act like lovers. We sound like poets. We move like we mean it. But inside, there's a wall. You pretend you're close. You mimic connection. But deep down, you're still performing. Still hiding. You use lust to dodge the question. Do you see me? And maybe you don't want to be seen. Because if they saw all of you, the needy parts, the shameful thoughts, the insecurities you hide under sarcasm and ambition, would they still want you? So you numb the fear with pleasure. You call it freedom. But it's not. It's fear in disguise. There's a difference between choosing to be physical and needing to be physical to feel worth anything at all. You're not weak for wanting sex. You're human. But if you're constantly chasing skin and avoiding depth, that's not desire. That's escape. Real intimacy is dangerous because it shatters your image. It doesn't care about the mask you built. It asks for the version of you that still cries alone, the version that's tired of pretending. Have you met that version? Do you want to? Or are you still letting strangers rewrite your self-worth in the dark? Still letting orgasms replace real peace? Still letting temporary validation act as a substitute for being loved? Here's the truth you're not supposed to say. Sometimes you chase lust because you don't believe you deserve intimacy. You think you'll be too much, too emotional, too intense, too broken. So you pick people who only want your body. Because at least then, you're not risking your soul. But you are. You're losing it piece by piece. Every time you say yes when you mean no. Every time you laugh when you want to cry. Every time you stay silent when your soul is screaming. You become a ghost inside your own skin. Desire isn't the enemy. Dishonesty is. When you lie to yourself about what you really want, you end up surrounded by people who don't know you. Because you never showed up. Not really. And eventually, you forget what connection even feels like. You think friction is intimacy. You think stimulation is love. You think being chosen for a night means being seen for a lifetime. It doesn't. Real intimacy doesn't rush. It doesn't chase. It sees you. And maybe that's what you've been aching for all along. To be seen, not filtered, not edited, not desired for a part of you, but loved for all of you. Are you ready for that? Or does that still scare you more than being used? Because let's be honest, being used feels familiar, but being loved? That's foreign. You're not broken because you crave closeness. You're not weak because you want to be held and understood. But you do need to be honest about what you're chasing. Is it love, or is it anesthesia? Freud warned us, when we don't deal with pain consciously, it comes out unconsciously, in who we attract, what we tolerate, and what we call love. Most people haven't made love. They've made avoidance look poetic. You want real connection? Start by being real. Stop hiding behind attraction. Stop measuring your worth in matches and messages. Stop settling for being desired when what you need is to be known. Take off the mask, even if your voice shakes, even if they leave, because the one who stays, the one who meets you in the raw, uncomfortable honesty of who you really are, that's intimacy. That's home. And no orgasm, no compliment, no pretty lie will ever replace that. So I'll ask you again, when was the last time you let someone see you? Not just your body, but your bruises, your fears, your softness. When lust replaces intimacy, you become a shadow of yourself. You don't need more bodies in your bed. You need more courage in your soul. Because love, real love, isn't about performance. It's about presence. And presence can't be faked. It's terrifying, but it's the only thing worth undressing for. Have you ever wondered why so many men feel torn between being powerful and being loved? Why the very traits that ignite erotic energy are often the ones society demands you bury? Why masculinity in its rawest, most unapologetic form feels dangerous, not just to others but to yourself? We've created a world where the masculine is either villainized or sanitized, where strength is seen as threat and tenderness is mistaken for weakness. And somewhere along the way, the erotic got lost. Because true eroticism isn't about dominance or submission. It's not about conquest. It's not about performance. It's about presence. It's about being fully in your body, fully in the moment, fully awake to what's real. And that kind of presence, it requires courage, masculine courage, the kind that doesn't apologize for wanting, the kind that doesn't flinch in the face of rejection, the kind that sees through illusion and touches truth. We've been taught that masculinity must be controlled, tamed, leashed, regulated. But what if it doesn't need to be tamed? What if it needs to be integrated? Carl Jung once said, "A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them." The masculine must face his passions, not suppress them, not avoid them, but face them, because only in that fire does the erotic wake up. Most men today are not intimate. They're performative. They're detached. They chase validation. They fake confidence. They mimic desire. And they wonder why they feel empty after sex. They wonder why their relationships lack depth. They wonder why women say, "I just don't feel you." Because they're not there. Not fully. You can't fake presence. And you can't be truly erotic without it. The masculine isn't erotic just because it's strong. It's erotic because it's rooted. Because it doesn't beg. Because it doesn't chase. Because it holds. That's the secret. Real erotic power isn't about pursuit. It's about gravity. Think about the men who've captivated a room without saying a word. It wasn't their abs. It wasn't their charm. It was their stillness. A man who's not distracted is intoxicating. Because he sees. He listens. He chooses with intention. And in a world addicted to noise, that kind of attention is rare, sacred, erotic. But most men never reach it because they confuse arousal with connection. They confuse reaction with depth. They scroll porn. They chase novelty. They perform. And they call that masculinity. It's not. It's mimicry. It's dissociation wearing a mask of control. True masculinity doesn't perform. It anchors. It protects. It penetrates, not just bodies, but illusions. The erotic isn't shallow. It's sacred. And it needs the masculine fully online, not numb, not ashamed, not split. But how do you get there? You stop lying. To yourself. To your partners. To the world. You admit what you feel. You admit what you fear. You admit what you crave, even when it doesn't fit the script. You confront your inner boy who begs for approval. You confront your father wounds. You confront your fear of being seen. Because erotic power doesn't live in the ego. It lives in the soul. And the soul doesn't care how many followers you have. It cares how present you are in the silence between breaths. Have you noticed? Most modern men don't touch with intention. They don't look with reverence. They don't move with purpose. They consume. But they don't worship. And yet, the feminine longs to be worshipped. Not from ego, but from essence. The feminine doesn't want a puppet. She wants presence. She wants a man who sees past the flesh, who feels her chaos without running, who doesn't collapse in the storm. That's erotic. That's masculine. And it's rare, because it can't be taught in school. It can't be downloaded from a dating app. It's forged in the fire of self-confrontation. So if you're asking yourself, why do I feel numb? Why don't I feel connected after sex? Why do women pull away even when I give them everything? Ask a deeper question. Am I present with myself? Do I respect my own body? Do I see beyond the surface? Because you can't bring someone into intimacy if you haven't gone there yourself. This is the masculine journey. To reclaim the erotic from the pornographic. To return to reverence. To remember that desire isn't dirty, only disconnected. The body isn't shameful. Emotion isn't weakness. Vulnerability isn't feminine. It's human. And the man who knows his humanity, he's not only erotic, he's divine. So take the masks off, the scripts, the performative bravado, and meet yourself, in the mirror, in the silence, in the ache. Because the erotic isn't something you chase. It's something you uncover. It's already there, buried beneath the lies you've been told. Find it, feel it, become it. That's the new masculine. And the world is starving for it.